Americans are durable. We take pride in hard work and high quality. American Giant makes durable, quality clothing right here in the USA. Because what we wear reflects who we are. When you buy American Giant, you're not just wearing the best clothes money can buy. You're helping keep jobs and pride in your own backyard. Premium clothing built to last decades, like it should. Get 20% off your first order at American-Giant.com with code RightHere24.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today's actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Weekly news and interviews, it's your number one source. Sports Card Nation, the hobby is the people. Sports Card Nation.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 311 of Sports Card Nation podcast. Really excited to talk to my guest today. She's a writer for numerous publications and a card collector, a card artist, a little bit of everything. And she's multi-talented, obviously, and glad meant to have her on earlier, but better late than never. Lauren Rizzo Shaffer is our guest today, and excited to catch up with her. Got to talk with her a little bit in Cleveland and said, hey, let's do the podcast, and here we are today. So without further ado, quick commercial break, and we'll be back with Lauren.
For nearly 50 years, Sports Collectors Digest has been the voice of the hobby, bringing you comprehensive coverage of the sports collectible industry. From industry news, auction results, market analysis, and in-depth stories about collectors and their collections, Sports Collectors Digest has everything you need to know about the hobby. SCD is also your leading source for listings of sports collectible dealers, card shops, card shows, and the latest from the industry's top companies. To check out all the latest news or to subscribe to the hobby's oldest magazine, visit sportscollectorsdigest.com or call 1-800-829-5561.
Happy to have my next guest on the Sports Card Shop guest line. Meant to get her on sooner, but better late than never. Very talented young lady. We're going to talk about some of the stuff she's doing in the hobby. But welcome to Lauren Rizzo Shaffer. Welcome, finally.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, glad to have you. Like I said, I kind of apologized before we started recording, but meant to have you on sooner, but here you are today, and like they say, better late than never. I'll kind of start with the standard first time on the podcast kind of question, kind of how you got into the hobby, where it all started for you.
Well, I when I was a kid, I did like the typical like Pokemon cards and that kind of stuff. Vince Carter is from the area I grew up in, so like there were a lot of like little giveaways or things with him. So we looked for him, but it was just kind of like a casual thing for my brother and me. And then when I met my husband in 2018, he was like, yeah, one of my hobbies is like collectibles, and I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't understand the extent of what that meant. And so, he kind of started introducing me to things. And then the probably the biggest thing, cause I already liked sports. I love the NBA. So we bonded over that. And this was just like kind of a new way to enjoy and experience sports. And, when Zion Williamson was in Prism, I remember that was kind of the first time that I like seriously opened packs with him. He got like boxes and we were hunting, and he's like, this is the guy, this is who we're looking for. And that was kind of the big like catalyst. And then of course, like with a lot of people, the pandemic kind of accelerated a lot of interest and attention, and how I kind of was, navigating the hobby. So yeah, it's really fun. Like I feel like I learn a lot. I think there's a lot of resources, there's a lot of cool people, and it's for me mostly like a really fun way to connect with people and a really fun way to connect with sports. And those are two like just very important things for me. So
what you're saying, it was your boyfriend's fault, who's now your husband.
basically, yeah. Yeah, it's really his fault why I just am like everywhere I look in my house there is some little square of cardboard. So
So you mentioned Vince Carter, and I knew that already, but for those listening, I wanted you do you try to, I mean, is that someone who you chase after their cards? Like, what do you collect? Is it,
a little bit. I do have some Vince Carter cards. A lot of stuff I like have an interest in, and my husband's just like instead of like flowers or jewelry or like, purses, whatever, like he gives me cards that he sees. And so I have a couple, like I have right now, they're on my shelf behind me, but I have like a series of cards. Some of them are like shoe pieces, some of them are jerseys of him on like different teams. So, he was on the Magic, but like very briefly, and the Orlando Magic's my team. But Vince Carter's kind of just been like an ever-present person for people in the area. And like my husband, his dad, when Vince Carter was still in high school and like barely a name, he would go to the Y and like play. So like my father-in-law played basketball with Vince Carter, and it's just kind of like a thing. He's just kind of always been around. And so yeah, so like reconnecting with like I have a book that was signed when I was like, I don't know, 12 maybe. And to like now have all these cards and like find that book when I'm unpacking stuff, like, connecting the past with the future, it's like, it's really cool. But as far as like what else I collect, because that's kind of a very small portion. I collect a lot of Shaq. Again, Orlando Magic fan. And we moved to Florida when I was like not even 2. So, when he was drafted and when the Orlando Magic came up, like he is another thing that's just kind of always been around. I've just always had this like, peripheral appreciation for him because he's just like ever present. And so yeah, so my card collection is a lot of Shaq. I have a lot of custom cards that are Shaq. Like a lot of my friends, they know like that's my guy. I also collect Coco Gauff. I got into collecting tennis about a year ago because now that Topps has it, there's like a little bit more to do with it. But yeah, that's mainly my main PCs are Coco Gauff and Shaq, and then like a couple like little ones here or there. So
yeah, and Shaq, anyone, like I was in the hobby when he came out of LSU and was the number 1 pick. Like you didn't have to be a basketball fan. He had that
right,
kind of
exactly.
personality, as you know, Lauren. And even now, I mean, he's still in the limelight, not as a player but as an analyst, commercials, as a spokesperson, and so he's a hard guy not to like. Like it's hard not to like him. He's just he's not a huge trash talker. Sometimes he'll say a few things, but he's generally a gregarious type of guy.
Yeah.
Funny. Will even make fun of himself, which is always a good trait. And I'm not necessarily an Orlando Magic fan, but I've always had a fondness for Shaq during his playing days, and even now, it's just whenever you see him, whether it be a commercial or doing some coverage of the NBA itself. He's a guy like you really have to try to find a reason not to like him. He doesn't give you a
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today's actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
He looks like he'd be a fun guy, like just to hang out with.
Right? Yeah, he looks like a fun guy to just kind of like hang out, chat. I feel like he could talk about I like one of the things I really like about him too is like, he took his education really seriously and, went back and like got a like he earned a doctorate. It's not honorary. Like I think he's just like, you have one life and he's really made the most of it. He's lived 1,000 lives and like, he's not perfect. Obviously nobody is, but like, he's just a really interesting figure that's just kind of always, been there and like to just kind of have that connection and like also like express that with people that people know I like him and so they'll send me random cards or they'll like my card art friends will send me one if we do a trade or whatever. Like sometimes they're just like I know you like Shaq and I now look for him more and so it's cool. It's nice that like he's such an easy figure to like casually pay attention to and he casually comes in and out of your life that like I don't know, he's just a joy. Like I just feel like he's a joy and yeah, so I like collecting them because it just is like it's just fun and joyful and yeah, I don't know.
No, it makes sense. And again, I remember like when he came into the league, I mean Jordan was still around, but like he was a different, obviously being a center and a big man,
right?
And his personality, and he was even did a rap album, Shaq,
right?
Like,
yeah,
he just was so he was so good for the NBA because he was so different than what was already there, and he was being himself. It wasn't like he was
exactly. Yeah, it's not forced. It's just
that's who he was, and he was just sort of a breath of fresh air, and then they got Penny. And they were a contender for many years with the dynamic duo and he's one of the as we know with some big men in the NBA, Lauren, right? A lot of wear and tear on the knees and ankles and so some of these careers unfortunately aren't long. Now I'm not saying he didn't have some injuries and stuff, but he put together a pretty long career, obviously a Hall of Famer. And he didn't go away. Like he loves the game. I think he's the kind of guy. That's why I say he'd be like a fun guy to hang out with because I think he loves people. I think he loves to have fun, and I think that comes through in whatever he's doing, whether it's a commercial or seeing him, on the air and as an analyst it's obviously he loves basketball, right? To be involved in that sport in the way he has as a player and now even after his career is over. So that passion for him, shines through. And I think that stuff's contagious. When you see someone like that, you sort of gravitate to someone like that. And like I said, I'm not necessarily a Magic or a Lakers fan or anything like that, but he's just like a fun guy. He's hard to root against because,
exactly.
So, if my team wasn't in it, I would probably root. If Shaq's team was, that's who I kind of tended to root for. So not a bad player to like. I got to ask you, between Vince Carter and Shaq, have you ever met him in person?
I haven't. I did meet Vince Carter when I was younger. That book signing was at like a local Barnes and Noble. So like it was, like very quick. So I haven't I think that is the only time I've met him. I've met like his stepfather. I think it was his stepfather was an educator. So he was like a substitute teacher sometimes in school. So like, we would see him around. He would tell us stories, like substitute teachers do. They just kind of like have fun, and it's very easy when like, Vince Carter's your son to like just kind of like, just goof off and like talk about Vince Carter and stuff.
It's definitely a good icebreaker. Like, hey, guess what? Or
right, like, yeah, and Vince is like just really interesting because I'm pretty sure it was his stepdad. Now, like, my mind's fuzzing on it, but was a music instructor, and like Vince was in the band in high school, and like I was in band. I was very big into band, and so like I think like with Shaq is another thing I like about Vince is that he's a dynamic person. Like what they do on the court is not, it's incredible and it's fascinating, but it's not all that they have to offer. And I really like that. And then Shaq, I haven't met him, but I was at the game earlier this year, last season, when the Magic retired his jersey. I was able to be there and like see that in person. So I didn't get to meet him or talk to him or anything, but like, to hear him speak, to hear other people speak about him, and to like kind of revisit, like, you kind of forget a lot of my friends, when they started looking into like the Shaq cards and stuff, and knowing I liked him and that was like my guy, they were like, he wasn't there very long. He wasn't like, he was there for 4 years. Like it was not a very long tenure, but it was very impactful. And so yeah, so like to be able to like be in his presence at least, and like see his kids and his colleagues, and just the decades of impact he's had, that was really cool. That was really interesting. So
yeah, and you said something that I didn't even realize that, right? That he was only in Orlando 4 years. That's the larger than life person. It felt like he was there 8 to 10 years.
Right. It felt like he was there forever, and he was there for like 4 to now I'm doubting myself. It was like 4 to 6. It was not long.
Yeah.
Like it was not very long.
Yeah, but even at 6 years, it still
exactly
feels
that's
like,
not much.
It feels like he was there double-digit years, even though he might not have been. And I think that's a testament, Lauren, to him and his personality, obviously his play, and that sort of thing. And and going back to Vince Carter too, I know everyone views him just sort of as like a dunk master, which he is. I'm not taking nothing away from him, but he was quite the player besides the dunking. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit for his play on the court with the clock running. Everyone likes to talk about the dunk competitions at the All-Star breaks and that sort of thing, but he was a player. Like, sometimes I think, when someone's really good at like something like dunking or 3-point shooting, they sort of get pigeonholed, right? That's all they can do. Vince Carter was a heck of a basketball player. He could shoot. It wasn't all about dunking. He could shoot. He could pass. He could play. He was a player. And so I think sometimes, being the great dunker as he was, I think sometimes people just all they see, or that's all they think, when it wasn't really the case. So I wanted to definitely mention that and give him some just desserts there.
You are listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hobby Hotline is the hobby's only live interactive call-in show. Join some of your favorite hobby personalities every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, to discuss the hottest hobby topics. If you miss us live, catch us after the fact on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on socials at Hobby Hotline.
Hobby News Daily is your homepage of the hobby, providing original writing, exclusive gem rate data, a daily morning minute podcast, and some of the best content creators in the hobby. Remember, hobbynewsdaily.com and at Hobby News Daily on social. Happy collecting!
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico. How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, "Happy Friday!" Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
We are back.
You mentioned card art, and I know you do some of your own, and I've had a lot of the card artists on this show. I know what you do from seeing it, but which is, you probably make it look a lot easier than it is. But with stitching, onto the card, kind of talk about how did that start for you, and kind of behind the scenes, what you do there.
Sure. So kind of to harken back to the Zion Williamson hunt, we opened a lot of product, and there were so many cards, and base cards they don't really have value, like they might have sentimental value, but like you can only have so many like base cards of a team, of a rookie from your, like it's and there were just so many, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, and this is one person, or two, but like one person pursuing, and opening so many cards and packs and stuff, and I was like, it's stressing me out how many cards we're throwing away. But it's also like, what do you do with them? Your local card shop can only hold so many and do so much, and there's only so many kids that you can hand base cards to before they're like, okay, I don't know what to do with these. So I just kind of was like, I already had been embroidering. I'd been doing, that kind of stuff since I was a kid. I grew up in Florida. My grandparents were about, 20 minutes away. So I spent a lot of time with like older people. And so like needlepoint's always just been a thing that, I did and whatever. And I just kind of, as I got older, I started doing my own patterns and my own, different things that, weren't necessarily, grandma approved. Yeah, we had all these cards, and I had left my job, my office job, and I was like, I don't like really know what I'm gonna do right now. I had, some it kind of tapered off. I didn't immediately leave my job. That's boring. That's not, necessarily something you want to hear about. But, I had some time in between leaving. I would work a couple days and then be home. And I was like, what am I going to do with all this free time? Like, I haven't had free time like this. And it was 2021. So like, we'd all been through 2020, which was very, very rough. And of course there was, the boom of interest and people returning or joining the hobby. And so I was like, I don't know, maybe I could stitch on cards. Like, let me just see it just kind of seemed like a dumb, fun thing to do. And I was like, if it doesn't work, at least it was something, and I'll just move on to the next thing. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, this is doable. Like, this is, because we have a lot of like Chrome Prism, mostly Prism because of basketball, but Select, whatever. But yeah, I was like, I can do this. Like, this is possible. And so it was a fun way to join my interests, to seek out cards and look for cards and acquire cards, or like examine the design and be like, what could I do with this? And then also, just kind of using my experience. That's just something that's kind of innate in me, and how I could challenge it and really challenge myself beyond doing like the typical embroidery or cross stitching. Like, it is a big challenge, and it's actually like I've had to take a little bit of a break because like my hands were just getting so cramped. I had to dial it back, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just another fun way to kind of like connect with my interests. And I like it too also because I like to find like the personal reasons to, like we talked about Vince Carter and Shaq, and like how they're more than just players. And I like learning about athletes and like what else they offer, because it's not just, a few hours a week, that you see them on your TV screen. They're whole people who have lives behind them, and people that surround them and experiences. And I like kind of learning like the humanity that stands behind them, and like spending time with that, and like kind of, marinating on it as I work on that card. Like, I'm not going to sit there and stare at a picture of a person that like I don't really, care about or have some kind of like even minute vested interest in. So I'll just show you real quick, like, as I have a couple here. So in
Yeah.
case people are like, what is she talking about? She stitches cards. Since we're talking about Vince Carter, I did this one about a year ago.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it's the logo in the background. I also did a city edition with the gold and the black. Excuse me. And then I did a LeBron one recently, which I hadn't done LeBron yet because I don't know, I put a lot of pressure on myself with like LeBron and Kobe, and I don't want to, do something that I don't like. Which, that's ridiculous for art, but
Well, you're investing. I think it's a good point you made too. Like, you're investing your time, so you probably want to like the guy, or at least have some sort of
exactly, yeah.
interest into the person. I don't want to say even just guy, but the person
Yeah.
that you're doing the work on the card with the embroidery or the stitching, right? You're obviously going to pick someone that you have some sort of liking to, right? Unless it's strictly commission, and even
Right.
then you're still investing your time, but at least you're getting hopefully compensated for it. I think it's cool how you sort of merged both of your worlds, right? Your hobby side with another hobby side, right?
Yeah.
That you're good at. And like you said, even though you know how to do that stuff, doing it on with the medium of a sports card, that changes the degree of difficulty changes with that medium. How was it when you first decided to do it? Was there a lot of trial and error, or was it not? Did you come out of the gate kind of swinging and it was good?
It was there wasn't necessarily like in the like the concept, I guess, for lack of a better term. It was more the methods that I kind of had to troubleshoot. I just kind of, because again, like the I hate like being like, oh, the physicality of it, but like it's all it's very concentrated.
Well, listen,
And
I'm going to stick up for you. Anyone that's worked with their hands, whether you're, in the pottery, crochet, cross stitch, embroidery, you're a laborer that just uses hand as a, like, that continuous same motions, right? Well, that adds up. And anything athletes who are always running, their knees and ankles are, and so it's along those same lines. And I think most people understand it. I think most people probably dealt with some sort of pain or soreness in the very least, if that's it, if not arthritis or, carpal tunnel or, or whatever it may be. Like, I think people can fully understand. My grandma, rest her soul, was huge into crochet. And, even as a younger lady, but as she got older, and then she started getting arthritis in her hands. But the crochet for her was a way to keep her hands sort of moving, to sort of stay. It didn't make the arthritis go away, but it sort of staved off. Where if I think if she would have stopped crocheting, Lauren, it would have got worse. And there was points she would tell me like her hand would start to close, and she'd literally, and it would hurt. She'd have to put her hand against the wall and press. That's like to force her hand open. And so, she'd always say like she enjoyed the crocheting anyway, but it was also therapeutic in the sense with the crocheting. So I think, you don't, obviously you're not a positive, but you don't have, I think people understand that, that repeated similar motions, that adds up. Whatever it might be. So I get it. And you do some incredible stuff with that. Can you do it? This I don't know the answer to. I've seen what you do. Obviously, I would think like thicker stock cards, Prism, your Select, your Chromium. It's probably a little bit easier to work with than your normal cardboard stock. Can it be done on normal cardboard stock?
It can, but I sometimes I have to modify it. Like sometimes, people are like, "Oh, this would be a great idea," and they like give me a suggestion. I'm like, "It would be," but like it's just like I'd have to find a workaround. Like that's a lot of times if I have an idea, I try to find a workaround to see if I can do it. Like Kayla collects. She told me once, she was like, "Okay, there's this card and it's a very specific moment, and it's her story, so I'm going to butcher it, but basically like she went to a game and it was one of her favorite players, and I think that she gave them Skittles, and the player had a fantastic game, and then the photo was from that game, and she's like, it would be great if you could like stitch Skittles onto the card, and I was like, that would be really cool. But then I was like, the reality was setting in of, oh my God, how am I going to do that though? And you think it's like it would be very simple, but I also want it to look a certain way. That's the thing. I don't want to just do it because like it's an idea and it's out there.
You take pride in your work. You take
Yes,
pride in your
a
work.
lot. Like, and I know we're
Yeah.
going to talk about like the writing with Sports Illustrated and Hobby News Daily
Yeah.
too, but like I do, like, if my name is attached to it and I'm dedicating any amount of time to something, I definitely want it to be something that I'm happy that people can see. I don't want to half-ass anything. I know I really, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well. I'm going to do it, my way. And but I have been working on it, but again, like my hands were just so bad this year that I it's been slow. I finally figured out how to do it and I'm working on it, but it's like it's gonna take a while. But like the LeBron card, because like a lot of his early cards, they're not like chrome or they're not that style. So this one's a little bit thinner, but it's got kind of like a little bit of like a laminate because it's not matte. So I could kind of like get away with a little bit more with that. And some paper, like I think I'm trying to think of any other specific examples, but yeah, like the thinner and the more like paper like they are, it's possible, but I have to definitely.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico. How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
Definitely modify my expectations and my methods. So
yeah, no doubt. And listen, if your hands are not cooperating, all right, it's it's nothing wrong with like taking a break and when you feel like you can get back to it, right? I don't think anyone would fault you there. I certainly won't. Speaking of card art, like we've seen, card art to me, Lauren, and I've told this to the other card artists that have been on the show, it's always been a part of the hobby. I mean, even the early vintage baseball cards, or a lot of those were paintings done by card artists, let's say. But I really think card art's not necessarily new, but I think COVID really brought out a lot of ingenuity and new ways to do it that haven't been done before. And it was an explosion of card art, and Topps really jumped on it with their 2020 line and really came to the forefront. But I always make a point, like it's not new. We're just seeing a lot more and a lot of creativity in the space that we hadn't seen prior. And obviously, as time moves on, right, we have better mediums, better technologies, things we didn't have in the past. Who would have thunk, right, that a 3D printer would actually be a thing someday? That's almost like science fiction, but that's like an everyday item now, at least for those who use it. And that, but even on the card art side, right, you just see some incredible stuff, what people are doing, to the point where Topps even, implicated and hired some of these artists. And then sometimes you see artwork not even done by Topps artists that's better than some of the stuff you're seeing, the professionals, if you will,
Right.
doing it. And that's the beauty. You can do, anyone can do it. I don't want to say anyone can do it. I sure as heck
No, yeah,
can't
they
do
can,
it.
yeah.
But anyone can attempt to do it, I guess.
Exactly.
Is maybe the best way to do it. And there's just some crazy stuff I've seen, including what you do with the stitching and embroidery. I can't draw a stick figure, so nothing's coming out of this camp. My son is a good artist, and my dad was. I always say this, and apparently it skipped me. So
I bet you could find your lane, though.
Yeah,
you do so
I
many
don't
other
know.
things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why you would dedicate that time, but if you wanted to, I think you could find your lane. I think you could find a way.
Well, let me put it this way: I'm definitely gonna be on the lower end of the or whatever when it comes to artwork and that sort of thing. So I really have an appreciation when I see people who are talented, and some of the stuff is obviously crazy. It's like, oh my God, like I couldn't even think of doing that, let alone do it, right? I couldn't even come up with the concept, let alone make it actually reality. And I guess my one last question to the card art space, like, do you think, like, I know it exploded and it's kind of settled down a little bit, you think people get tired of that, or I don't necessarily, but do you think maybe like anything else, you know what I mean? It's like on to the next thing. You think there's a little bit of that goes on when it comes to card art?
I think that's a very good question because, it's a good question. Because you're right. A lot of things in the hobby, there's an ebb and a flow. You've been doing it long enough to definitely know that, and I'm sure notice patterns and waves of things. I think it's in a very interesting space right now where people are trying to kind of figure out the longevity of, and like you said, card art has always been a part of the hobby. This, since 2020, has been with social media and everything, the diversity has kind of created a level playing field. And I think now it's kind of like, okay, well, what do we want out of it? Kind of, what are we putting out there, and what do people want to see out of it? And I think it's kind of similar to like unlicensed versus licensed. Some people will not touch unlicensed product, and that's how you collect. That's fine. But some people, they see card art and they see modified cards, altered cards, danger, trying to pull one over. So I think it's in a good place right now. But I do think it's I don't know, it's in a great place. Like, I love card art, and I think it's very good right now. But I think a lot of, like, my friends personally felt a little bit of dejection with some of the reception, in the sense that they thought it was nefarious. And I know in the last couple of years, there has been a lot of talk of like card altering, cleaning, and I think a lot of people are wary of card art because they see it as, you're trying to push this product on me and say this is an official product that people should appreciate and acknowledge and exchange and put into, the system of cards, of, selling and transacting and trading and appointing value to something that you made. And I think it's hard. I think it's hard to kind of put those, two sides together and make them see, see how they can complement each other, and how it can all kind of grow together instead of being, in combat with each other. But also, like, it's been kind of a sensitive time for people, again, like with the, unlicensed stuff, and certain athletes signing with certain companies, and then, like the corporatization of cards. I know a lot of people have had a lot of conflicting feelings about that in the last few years, and that's fair. And I understand it's going to bleed into card art because it's a part of the conversation en masse. But I think a lot of the people who do it and do it well are, first of all, not trying to con anyone, not trying to pull one over on anybody, and I think are true artists too. I mean, I keep kind of looking over to the left here because I'm looking at like cards from my friends and like the creativity they've had. Like, I'm going to show you. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is, Kev's cards, and
Yeah.
he's incredibly talented, and he took the Select design when this came out. This is from the WNBA Select. I just opened some today. This design is kind of weird. It's not symmetrical. It's off to the side. What is all this like empty space? And like for me, I'm kind of like, what could I do with that as far as stitching?
Yeah.
But also like, do I like this design as a collector? And he took it and he made many cards that are gorgeous with that. Like he took something that I wasn't necessarily like as is just a collector, not even an artist. Do I like this? And he made it into something spectacular. And I think that knocking the creativity is I think that we should operate in good faith most of the time with these artists. I'll show you another one real quick. I'm in a fantasy football league, and so one of my friends, when I won, I got to select them, and he made this card, and like Shaq moves in there, like it's
That's cool.
it's a thick shadow box, and like
Yeah.
he's dunking, and like I mean that I don't know, the mass production of cards is that's something that kind of like with the junk wax era and everything, and I know people are debating like, are we in a junk wax renaissance or whatever? Maybe we are, but like I like what people are doing and taking from the time and from the massive amounts of product and being like, well, what would I want to see? What would I want to do? How do I want to express my joy for the hobby and joy for sports and my creativity?
All right, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you to Lauren Rizzo Shaffer. And if you didn't have enough, and it's a great and fun conversation, at least I hope you feel the same. I sure do. We'll be back with the conclusion of our great conversation on next Friday's episode, 312. So don't miss that. If you enjoyed today, we'll come back next week for the conclusion of this conversation. So thanks, everyone. We're going to hear from our Hobbies the People announcer, some final thoughts, and wrap up this week's episode.
Time for our Hobby is the People announcer of the week.
This is Andy Friedman. Remember, the hobby is the people.
If you'd like to be the Hobby is the People announcer of the week, do a WAV or MP3 file and send it to sportscardnationpc@gmail.com.
That's a wrap for this week. Huge thanks to you, the listeners out there, because without you, there is no us. If you like the show, we truly appreciate positive reviews. Big ups to our great guests who drive the show and our awesome sponsors who make it all possible. Sports Card Nation will be back next week, but don't forget to catch either Hobby Quick Hits or Card Mentions coming up on Monday. I'll leave you with this. How do we change the world? One random act of kindness at a time. Remember, the hobby is the people.
Hi, I'm Isaac Alpert, a longtime card collector and the co-founder of the Penny Sleever. My wife and I started the Penny Sleever with a simple premise in mind: to offer collectors top quality supplies at fair prices. We offer a full range of hobby supplies and we'll get them to you fast. Whether you're looking for a 260-point magnetic for that oversized patch card, or a slew of semi-rigids for your next PSA submission, the Penny Sleever has you covered. Shop now at thepennysleever.com and use the promo code SCNation to get 10% off your first order. That's SCNation for 10% off at thepennysleever.com. The Penny Sleever. Top quality supplies, fair prices.
Iron Sports Cards is your #1 source for all your PSA and other grading submissions. Their elite status improves turnaround times. Heck, they even provide the card savers. Their chat rooms provide updates on all your submissions. They also offer wax options and single cards to cover all the bases. Check them out on Facebook at Iron Sports Cards Group or on the web at ironsportscards.com, or even give them a call at 1-877-IRON-PSA. Rob's got you covered.
How do you feel when you switch to Geico and save on your car insurance? It's like going to work on one Thursday morning and thinking to yourself, just one more day until Friday. But then somebody in the elevator says, Happy Friday! Then you check your phone quickly and discover today is actually Friday. So yes, Happy Friday, random stranger in the elevator. Happy Friday indeed. Yep, switching and saving with Geico feels just like that. Get more with Geico.
If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.